So in today's video, we are going to design a photo app with one specific functionality that we're going to design in this, which is rotating and cropping the image. So it's a very common functionality in any of the photo apps. The idea here is to understand how can we create a rotational UI component in Figma and prototype it as well. So let's get started. For this particular thing, for this particular project, you will need these assets. So you will need bunch of standard icons for a photo editing app. You will need a back button and you will also need a done button, and you will also need a image. So this image, a really high quality image is needed. I got this image from Unsplash, so you can get an high quality, any image that you like, you can get it. Make sure that the image is really high quality because we'll be zooming it and panning it as well. So make sure the image is high quality so that it does not pixelate when you scale the image. So yeah, that's it. So these are the assets that we need. We won't be animating the icons or these back buttons and all, so it doesn't matter. Just get any of the icon that you have and put it up. For creating these icons, I have created components and then overridden the icons under them, and this is the selected state of the rotational functionality that we are going to build. So now what we are going to do is, as usual, we'll first start with our artboard. So I have picked up an artboard for iPhone 11 Pro Max and I've added a status bar to it already. Now what we are going to do is we are going to drag our assets into the artboard so that our basic frame is ready. Perfect. So our basic UI is sort of ready. Now just touch it up a little bit so that it looks more like a photo editing app. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some corners to it and then some more boundaries to it. So let's quickly do that and touch it up. Now that we have the basic UI in place, what we first want to do is, the idea is that these icons that are there in the bottom, we want to make them scrollable, horizontal scrollable. So what I've done is I have grouped them together, all these icons, crop, brightness, rotate and everything together, and I have grouped them in one group and I'm renaming it as bottom icons. Okay. And now to make them scrollable in the bottom, what we need to do is, first, instead of group, we need to change its property to frame. And I've explained this in my previous video what frame does. So just check it out. Frame gives you additional bounds and give you an option to clip content. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to change the bounds of this frame to the bounds of the artboard. So hit command on your keyboard and then change the bounds, the blue bounds of the group that you're seeing, and change it to this. It should be equal to the artboard width. So now this is done. What we also need to do is, so now after this is done, we can go in the prototyping tab and we can enable horizontal scrolling. So as soon as it does the horizontal scrolling, this frame will get the horizontal scroll. So let's see how it looks in the prototyping tab. So I'll just hit the prototyping option and see. So the bottom buttons are now scrollable. That's how you make any group or any frame scrollable, and anything that is out of the bounds are not scrollable. So that's how it is, and that's how you make anything scrollable. Now the second thing that we need to build is, we need to build a circular UI here, a circular dial sort of UI, which will appear here, and by which you can rotate this image. So you can slide it left to right and you can rotate this image. So to do that, let's first build the UI, the dial UI that we want to build. So to do that, let's start with a circle. So start with the circle, and we want to see only a portion of the circle. So maybe something around 900 will work. Okay, and we don't want any fill to it, and we also want to create small lines at different, let's say 10 degree angle. So what I'll do is I'll remove this and I'll add a stroke to it, white stroke. And here's a small trick, guys, that you can also try. What you can do is come here and change the thickness of this to something like 14. Okay, and go in the properties, advanced settings, and here what you can do is you can give properties 1 and 15. So what it'll do is it'll create one thickness line at every 15 gap. So it'll divide everything into um, the entire circle into different 15 segments, and I'll create one thickness, one dp thickness, one pixel thickness line to it. So it creates this gorgeous looking dial without doing much of the work. Otherwise, to do this you need Illustrator, where you need to put all these lines on a path, but here you can just simply do this by this trick, and this is how it will start gonna look like. Okay, now if you see it's outside of the artboard, so what we'll do is we'll just drag it in. So sometimes it happens that if the object that you are playing with is bigger than the artboard, or it's out of the artboard, then it's go out of the group itself. So just make sure it's inside, and yeah, this is how the dial will look like. Now what we need to do is we need to add numbers and a certain knob so that we can rotate this UI here and here. So what will happen is when I move the dial to the right, the image will rotate to the right, and when I move it to the left, the image will move to the left. So let's do that. First we need to add a numbering that how much we have rotated, so let's do that. So I'll hit T on my keyboard and it will invoke the text option. So now this will represent the degrees that we have moved. We want to keep it to something right 1 for now, and change this to center align. Now what we want to do is once we start moving the UI, this number should also change. So to do that, let's create a counter, and to do the counter it's really easy. So let's start with something around -9, and this is a small trick, guys, so follow as it is. So what I'll do is let me just keep it outside the artboard and I'll show you how it works. So 9 is here, hit enter, -8, hit enter, -7, right, and change it to auto height, -6, keep on hitting enter and go in the reverse order, -5, so we're going till 9. I think that's perfectly fine. So we have this number in this range, and this is one group, and I'll rename it to numbers. Okay, and the next thing is we want at one particular time we should able to see only one of the number, and it should slide up and down when we move the UI. So what I'll do is I'll select this number group text, and what I'll also do is 1 minute, I'll group it together and I'll call it counter. Now again, change the property of this group that contains this text numbers to frame, and you'll get a clip content option. Now what I'll do is I'll hit command on my keyboard and then I'll resize it to where 0 is. So what will happen is you will be able to see the number, only the 0 number, because it's in the bound, but rest will get hidden because of clip content. So that's the benefit of clip content. Now drag this number in the artboard and center align it as well. Perfect. So now we have everything in place. We have our bottom navigation, we also have our counter ready, we also have our dial ready, we have our image, and everything else is set up. Now one basic thing that is needed right now is to create a slide knob by which you can grab it and move it here and here. So what I'll do is I'll quickly do that, and it's very easy to do. Just create a vector straight line, actually hit P on your keyboard and draw a straight line, Now change its thickness to something around 2. Change its color to something around yellow, and go in the details and change the caps to round so that it gives you a nice rounded corners in the top and bottom. Align it with the center key, which is with 0, and we also need a slight knob there. So what I'll do is I'll create one more circle, like this, something around 20. Change the color to yellow, and I'll select these two and go in my selection and do union selection, so they'll become one, and I'll rename it as knob. Now let's club the dial and the knob UI together. So I'll select both of them here and group them together, and I'll call them slider. Perfect. So now we have everything ready. We have our counter ready, we have our navigation ready, and we also have this group that contains this knob, yellow knob, by which the user can drag this the knob left and right, and we have grouped them together. So now what we need to do is we need to create another artboard. Let's just duplicate this, and yeah, now what we need to do is we need to move, let's say when the knob is moved to the right, the image should also move, rotate in the right. So for that, what we need to do is first select the knob and rotate it a little bit, something like this. Okay, and once rotated to the right, the value should also change. So what I'll do is I'll come here and I'll select this and move it to something around 9. Just move the text field up so that 9 is visible. Perfect. And what we also want to do is we want the UI to rotate, so we'll select the photograph that we have and we'll also move it a little bit to the right. Okay, and just zoom to fill it. So at this extreme it will always fill the image. Now this is how the rotated image looks like. Maybe we can rotate it a little bit more. Yeah, and we need to zoom it so that it fills the entire shape. Okay, great. Now if you see, it has moved out of the area, which is this where we can actually see the image. So this is quite distracting. So what we can do is we can add an overlay so that the area which is outside of this rectangle is not visible. That's how it's typically on the photo editing apps. So what we need to do is we need to create an overlay that will hide the excess area that is coming out of this rectangle, the viewable portion. So to do that, it's really easy. Again, let's draw a rectangle exactly to the size of the artboard. Make it around like this, 50% black. And what I'll also want to do is I'll select the photograph in the first one and copy it from here, and I'll paste it again. And this is just to make the size exact. So what I'll also do is I'll change the fill to black, or maybe I'll keep it white so that it's visible. So let's fill it with solid, and yeah, this is how it is. Now we have created two things. We have a rectangle which is 50% black, and this another one which is exactly the same size of the photo from the first one, which is basically this rectangular bound. So select these two in this one, in this third frame. Come here and do subtract selection. So as soon as you do subtract selection, it will subtract the first layer from the second artboard and leave you with this. So only this area is visible, now everything else is hidden. So that's how we can create an overlay like this, and we'll call it BG background overlay. Okay, and move it just above the image. So it'll help us in few things. It'll also make the UI more visible, so that even if it's an image that is white, our UI is still visible, and only the viewable portion that will be cropped is visible now, and the excess is now hidden behind the overlay. And since we have created this overlay, we'll just copy it from here and add it to the previous frame. So in the previous frame, just above the photograph, add it as it is. So yeah, now it's done. Now what we need to do is I'll just quickly wire it up so that you can see what we have built till now. So I'll come here and I'll go inside the slider component, and the knob vector that we have created, I'll select it, go in the prototyping tab and add an interaction to the third artboard. Instead of on tap, we want on drag. Navigate to 3, smart animate, ease out is perfect, 360 milliseconds. Great. We'll do the similar thing from here as well. Come here inside the group, select and move it here. Instead of on tap, we want on drag, smart animate 360, and maybe we should do ease out. In the first one also we need to do ease out. So let's do ease out. Great. So we have done ease out here now. What we want to do, let's see how it looks like in the UI. So I'll click here and let's move it. See? So if I drag it on the right, I see the number changing and I can come back to the first. So it gives this really nice effect. Great. And the number is also sliding because we have added the counter. So we have to do the same thing for the left because we have not created the left design. So what we'll do is let's quickly create exactly the same thing but in the left direction. Now we have done the left state as well, where when we rotate it to left, we get to this stage, exactly opposite to what we have done for the right one. I think this counter is left, so what I'll do is I'll select the counter and change it to -9, move it down to -9. Yep, there it is. So now I think we are complete. What we need to do is we need to patch this prototype to this prototype. So what I'll do is I'll go to the prototype tab and then again select the knob. So what will happen is Figma allows you to create multiple interactions with the same one. So you can select the knob again and hit the plus icon, and this time move it to the left one, and it'll automatically know that you want to move it to the left or you want to move it to the right. So on tap, navigate to 4, smart animate, on track, sorry, and ease out 360 milliseconds. Perfect. So now let's see how it looks like in the prototyping tab. Okay, if I move it to the right, moves to the right, perfect. If I move it to the left, it moves to the left, perfect. See? So it works really nicely in both directions. Now what we need to do is, so our majority of UI is now done. What we need to do is once we select, when we say that the edit is now complete, when you click the check mark icon, we should get to whatever stage we are. So if you were at this stage where it's cropped and zoomed at this stage, we should be able to see this image itself in the final state. And we should also hide the UI for the dial. So what we need to do is we need to create the final stage. So what I'll do is I'll quickly select this one, this artboard, and duplicate it. Now after hitting this plus, we don't want this icon anymore, so we can delete it. We also don't want the knob UI and the counter. So what I'll do is I'll just move it down. So use the arrow keys and move it down. Don't delete it, move it down, so that we can get a nice animation of this moving down when we link it with smart animate. We can hide the crossbars that we have built in the corners, and we can also delete the bigger overlay because we don't need it anymore because we are not in the editing mode. So we can delete it, and we have this image. So if you see, this is the only portion that was visible, so we need to zoom it a little bit more. And mimic the way that only this portion is visible, the way you were seeing in the previous one, only this portion. Yeah, so I think this is what is visible now. Perfect. And what I'll do is, from here, if I click on this one, go to the prototyping tab, we should be able to go to the fifth one, and it should be on tab, navigate to smart animate. Instead of ease out, we want ease out back because it will give us a nice spring animation, and that's it. So now let's see how it looks like. So here, and from here, if I click this one, perfect. So if you see, the image just zoomed up and you get the nice animation as well. Great. So I think we are almost done with our entire animation. What we also need to do is, if you want to make it a little bit more better, or maybe you can add additional frames to it. So what we can do is, just the way we did for fifth one, we can just do it again, and we can create a starting stage. So basically, where we start with this smaller image and the UI comes up. So what I'll do is, I'll come here again, and here I'll call it a 0 frame, because, or maybe start. This is where we are starting up. Drag the handle to the start, and instead of this image, the rotated image, we want to create an initial state. So I'll delete this image, come here, grab the image that is unrotated and unrotated, actually the initial starting image, come here, fill it up, and just scale it. Perfect. So this is how it looks like. Now what we'll also want to do is, I want to make it unselected. So I'll come here and I'll change the icon color to white and white to 50. So it looks like the rest of the ones. And clicking on this should take me to the starting stage of rotation. So this icon gets selected, and this is where we land. On tab, navigate to ease out. Perfect. And here also we don't want selected because this is the final stage. So I'll come here and I'll change this property, black icon to white, and 50% white background. Perfect. So it goes to the unselected state. So it starts with this unscaled image, unrotated, then we rotated it in the different direction, and this is the final rotated with cropped image. So yeah, I think that's how it is. Let's see a final preview how it looks like. So this is the final stage, how we enter in the prototyping mode. And let's say I want to rotate the image. I'll select this. This is how it appears, and I can move it on the right, rotate it on the right. I can also rotate it on the left, and can go back. So I'll go here, and this is the final selection that I want. I can click, and it's saved. So that's it, guys. I think this is it for today's video. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.